Hello and welcome to this time of reflection. I'm Geoff Marshall Taylor, part of Christchurch Chorley Wood. Some years ago, when I was producing children's programmes for the radio, I was approached and asked to write a version of the Bible for children and their families. And in fact, this is what emerged, this children's Bible. And it was a challenge. And I realised as I began to get down to this that I have often in the past, years ago, read the Bible in a way that wasn't the most helpful. I needed really to adapt the way that I read it and how I told its stories. Throughout my life, from the time when my parents told me Bible stories, I'd seen it as a rich source of inspiration and challenge, with insights into the character of God, of humankind, in fact, of his world, of which we're a part. Anyway, I suppose what struck me as I started work on the children's Bible was that I had in the past tended to treat it rather like a brand tuck, sort of dipping into it for a favourite verse or character or story. And what I needed to do as I began to write and adapt the stories was to see everybody portrayed in it, and every incident, every thought, as part of a huge continuum stretching from the beginning of time to the end of time. And God's message of God's light, God's love for us, each one stretches back to the earliest of times and forward to future times. So I began to think that it was a great privilege for us to be part of this, continuum, as I put it, of God's love poured out for humankind, especially through his son Jesus. In chapter 11 of the letter to the Hebrews in the Bible, there's a list of men and women. They go from Abel to Samuel, whose life, even though they faced hardship or persecution, kept the flame of faith, trust in God, burning down many centuries. And the letter goes on to describe those faith-filled people as a great cloud of witnesses who surround us, yes, you and me, cheer us on as we make our own way through life. And what struck me forcibly was that all these heroes of faith were not a rag bag of unconnected people, but they were like runners who carried the Olympic flame, passing it on from one person to the next. And what is more, God in his grace or his undeserved love offers us, you and me, the chance to join that line of faithful witnesses, passing on God's love to other people on the way. The opening words of Hebrews 12 are these: since we are surrounded by this great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of our faith. Among the millions of Christians who've lived since the Bible was written, there have of course been many whose faithful witness has made them household names. A few weeks ago we remembered Thomas Becket, the Archbishop of Canterbury, whose murder 850 years ago has been celebrated, commemorated in Canterbury Cathedral. murdered for seeking to speak the truth to power. Others have been and will be ordinary people. You know, when I go to Tesco's in Amersham, I often look up at the field behind the store, and up there, that's in the top of the field, you'll see a memorial to the Amersham Martyrs. 5 men and 1 woman burned at the stake in 1521, 500 years ago. Why? For wanting to read the Bible and to pray in English. They were ordinary people, labourers, carpenters, and there was 1 housewife. But like you and me, ordinary as they were, each one was part of God's procession of witnesses, people of faith. Jesus himself was very anxious we should get the message about being his lights in the world. He told this story, well, not a story, really, in Matthew chapter 5. He said, what if somebody bought a candle? Here's the candle I've got here, swap hands. What would he or she do with it? Well, Jesus says this, how about getting a grain basket? Forgive the bucket, but he talks about a bushel, which is a basket for grain. How about if this person, man or woman, who's just got the candle, sticks the bucket over the candle? That would be great, terrific. And Jesus says that would be ridiculous. Of course not. What the person, he or she, would do would be to put the candle high up on a stand so that its light would radiate throughout the room. I mean, just get rid of the bucket. Then he said, kick the bucket. I didn't mean that actually, but anyway. Put the light, said Jesus, so that it will give light to the whole room. Let your light so shine before people that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father who is in heaven. We need to ask God to show us those areas in our lives where we are dousing the flame of his love, casting it into the shadows. The light of God's love has illuminated the world from the beginning of time. It can continue to do that. But to do so, God needs us, yes, you and me, to be beacons of his light in those parts of the world that we can influence. We become, this is what I think's amazing, part of the sweeping continuum of God's love. We can enable it to keep on shining now and in the future as we live as his lights, fixing our eyes on Jesus. Let's end with a prayer. Just a moment of quiet as we think of our own lives and ask God to enable us to shine more effectively as his lights in the world, and thanking him for all those who have shone their light down the centuries and have passed on that light like Olympic runners, passing it on to us and through us to others. It's a prayer. Lord, in a world where many live in the shadows of oppression, suffering, hardship, and unbelief, shine the light of your love, and Lord, enable us to be effective witnesses to that light. Amen. And I hope your day goes really well.